Welcome to Battle Report 6, and this is a Warriors of Chaos versus Tomb Kings at 2400 points. It's another practice game for our upcoming tournament using Swedish comp. I've decided to ditch the Dwarves and go for Warriors of Chaos. I've changed to the Warriors as I'm now using my Dwarves in a local Games Workshop league, and just for a change I thought I'd take the Warriors out for a run. This tournament is using armies starting from 7 upwards, and my Warriors of Chaos come in at 15, and Colin's Tomb Kings come in at 18, so not too far difference between them. Comprised of a Chaos Sorcerer Lord just on foot, and they were running the Lord of Slaanesh at level 4. He had an Ogre Blade, a Dragon Helm, Talisman of Preservation. I then had another Chaos Sorcerer, level 2, with a Dispel Scroll and the Enchanted Shield, and Acid Ichor. That gave me access to all 6 of the Slaanesh spells. I finished off the characters with an Exalted Hero on a Demonic Mount. Again, Slaanesh, and he has Armour of Destiny, Scale Skin, and he's a BSB. A bit of a hard-hitting character. For my core I have 20 Chaos Warriors, Mark of Slaanesh, with an Aspiring Champion, full command. I then have a Chaos Chariot, again Mark of Slaanesh, 2 lots of 5 Warhounds, and 10 Chaos Marauders with full command. There is Blood and Glory type Fortitude scenarios, so you have to keep your numbers up. For special, I've gone for a unit of 3 Dragon Ogres with Halberd. I've gone for a Gorebeast Chariot with Mark of Slaanesh, a Chimera with Regeneration and Poisoned Attacks and Flaming Breath. I've gone for a Chaos War Shrine, just to give a little bit something different. To finish off, in my rare slots I've gone for a Hell Cannon, just to give me that little bit of shooting, can do a bit of damage and can cause panic. Colin's Tomb King army is much the same. He's got a unit of 8 chariots. One of those is his Tomb King general. He's then got a Like High Priest level 4 on Nekahara magic. He's got a unit of 25-ish archers for the bunker. He's got 4 units of Carrion to chaff things up. He's got a Colossus, a War Sphinx, and 2 Caskets of Souls. Yep, it's a bit of a harsh list on the magic front. He also has a unit of scouting light horse archers and a unit of 3 Necro Knights which are hidden below the sands. Colin got Desiccation for his spell, which is a -1 strength and toughness, Desert Wind to move a troop. He got Righteous Smiting to give an extra attack, and a protection spell which goes 5+ ward to a unit, or he can bubbles, it goes to everyone within 12. My level 4 rolled up Cacophonic Choir, which can give random to everything within 12 inches. Then also Acquiescence, which gives random movement within 24 inches. And then Slicing Shards, D6 strength 4. Fail a test and you have to take it again. And then Phantasmagoria, which is a leadership test using an extra leadership dice and losing the lowest. My level 2 got Hysterical Frenzy, which you can cast on the unit. It then attacks itself at the end, but it remains in play and gives some frenzy. Could be useful. Had Purveyne of Slaanesh, which is a leadership test, much like the Casket of Souls. Roll 3d6, and whatever you lose your leadership by, you take wounds with no armour saves allowed. So the Slaanesh spells, coupled with the War Shrine, with a quite low casting bound spell, I should be able to get him to use some of his Dispel dice or his Dispel Scroll to allow me getting the bigger spells through when I need them. Colin won the roll to deploy, and as you can see he's got his Casket of Soul in the bottom corner, the War Sphinx, a block of chariots, the Horse Archers who scouted just to the front of the wood, the unit of Carrion. He's then got his bunker of archers with his Like High Priest. Behind that is another Casket of Souls. To the side of that is his Colossus to give it some protection. And then 2 units of Carrions to do some chaffing up. Colin's main strategy is to chaff up the opponents with his Carrion, which are quite tough in combat, his Scouts to hold people up, do some damage with the Casket of Souls, and then hit with his big block, his War Sphinx and his Colossus. So I know what's coming and I've got to try and stop that. I deployed my army to the right hand flank and towards the right centre. To the far right was my Warhounds, some Marauders with the level 2 caster, behind them the Chimera, my block of 20 Warriors with the level 4 caster next to the War Shrine. The BSB was behind them to give them support. I know he's going to get the casket at some stage, so hopefully the BSB and the General's leadership and the rerolls are going to save them a little bit. I've then got the Dragon Ogres behind the wood and my chariot starting to come off to their left. So I've got the normal chariot, then the Gore-based chariot, a unit of Warhounds, and finally on the flank, giving protection, is a Hell Cannon. The Hell Cannons are pretty good, they can charge, they can shoot, and they're pretty tough. My strategy was trying to get round faster on the right flank to threaten the casket, get the flyer up and get the BSB up to charge in. The unit of Marauders into the tower to protect them, but they've got a 48-inch range for Pavane, the leadership test. I was hoping to target the casket and do some damage to that, take it out, and then use the Warriors block in the middle to move up and use the level 4 to cause disruption of the Tomb Kings, and maybe then get my hard-hitting chariots and Hell Cannon into his left flank and get the other casket. So Colin wins the roll to go first. He leaves his light cavalry in a position where they can just cause a little bit of trouble to chaff me up. He moves his carrion on the left in front of the chariots just to screen them, and the carrion on the right flank he moves up to get in a position to stop my Warhounds on the right and to stop anything coming through the centre by chaffing them up. The casket gives plus D3 casting dice, and that was then 8-4 to Colin's favour. He goes for a 5 dice for the first casket, and I scroll it. He doesn't get irresistible force, and I'm able to dispel the second casket, which he casts on 3 dice. I don't think I'm going to be quite so lucky next turn, having now used up my dispel scroll. Shooting, and he only manages to do 1 wound to a unit of Warhounds. Warriors of Chaos turn 1, and I did the cheesy fast reform and moved the Marauders into the tower. I moved the Chimera and the Warhounds round to the right of it, and I move everything else up towards the Tomb King. Magic is 7 dice to Chaos and 6 to the Tomb Kings. I try to get 3 spells off this turn, but unfortunately I either fail, they're dispelled, and nothing goes. Tomb King turn 2, and he rolls to see if the Necro Knights come up from the sands, and they do, but they randomly move a little way over to the left, but nicely placed behind my chariot and my war dogs and my Hell Cannon. Colin moves his horse archers up to get in front of my Hell Cannon. Not quite sure what he wants me to do there, probably charge him, but we'll see. He then moves a unit of carrion on the left to chaff up my warriors, and then moves another unit of carrion to chaff up my chariots. Here's a close-up of Colin's Colossus waiting to do some damage if he gets a chance, and another unit of carrion just waiting their turn to chaff up and hold up my units to allow another lot of shooting by the casket. Magic is 7-5 for the Tomb King, and I'm living by the skin of my teeth. I managed to dispel the first casket, and then he fails to cast the second. So, a let off for me. On to Tomb King shooting, and he manages to put another wound onto the Warhounds, and they fail their leadership test and flee. Sadly, they don't stop in front of the Necro Knights to hold them up, and they don't cause any other panic checks because I've got the Marcus Slanish on all the rest of the troops. Warriors turn 2, yeah, and I decide to charge the Warriors into the carrion on my right flank. Going to pick up the points for them there, but they do slow me up for a turn. I then charge both chariots into the carrion in front of them. And finally, I charged the Hell Cannon into the archers. So I should pick up the points for the 3 units. Not that it's going to add up to a great amount though. In Magic, I get enough dice to try 3 spells. He allows Hysteria to go off on his bunker. You can see the bunker just to the left of this picture. It gives them Frenzy and causes D6 strength 3 hits at the end of each magic phase on them. The Frenzy is a good part, because if I can get a unit up close enough into their charge range, they're going to have to come forward, allowing me to charge into his bunker with his Light High Priest. I try for Acquiescence on his Colossus, but he stops that. I then try Purveying on his Casket, but he scrolls it. So that's the end of my magic phase. We go on to combat, and yep, the chariots smash through the Carrion. The warriors again deal with the other Carrion, and the Hell Cannon finishes off all the light archers. Tomb King's turn 3, and the Necro Knights charge into the flank of my Gorebeast chariot. He then declares a charge on my Dragon Ogres with his War Sphinx. Taking the better course of valour, I flee with the Dragon Ogres, but of course everything else has the mark of Slanish, so there's no panic tests taken. In the centre, the War Sphinx stumbles forwards after the failed charge. He moves the chariots block up to get into a charge range, and the archers on the hill don't fail the leadership tests, so although they're still frenzied, they don't have to charge forward. Magic is 12-7 to the Tomb King. He tries to get Desiccation off on my Gorebeast chariot, but unfortunately, although he throws quite a few dice at them, he doesn't make the spell, so that's his level 4 out of the game for this turn. However, this turn, the casket goes off. And yeah, I know the aim is to keep everything 6 inches apart or get them into combat, but I couldn't do that just because of the way I deployed them. And so here's the tally for the casket this turn. It does 2 wounds on the Marauders in the tower, it kills 1 warrior, it puts 4 wounds on the War Shrine, and 6 wounds on the Dragon Ogres before it fails to go anywhere else. It's a bit of a pillow fight between the Necro Knights and the Gorebeast chariot, but with combat res, the Gorebeast chariot breaks and flees over the chariot to its side. The Necro Knights pursue, but run into the side of that chariot, and now we then move on to Warriors turn 3. Warriors turn 3, and I charge the Hell Cannon into the Necro Knights. The War Sphinx is getting really close, and also the chariots to come in and charge and catch my unit standing still. So I'm hoping that I might break the Necro Knights in time. In the previous turn, Colin had moved up a unit of Carrion to chaff up the warriors. However, this time I charged the Carrion with my BSB and the Chimera. That should make short work of those. Here's a shot of the battlefield, looking from the top angle. It's my magic phase and I get 8 dice to 4. It's this phase that I get the Hysterical Frenzy off on the Light High Priest bunker, not the last turn. At the end of the magic phase, the spell does 3 wounds to the skeletons. I roll for the Law attribute, and my Sorcerer gets the +1 attack, the +1 weapon skill, and the +1 initiative. In the combat with the Carrion, the BSB and the Chimera wipe them out, and the BSB overruns forward. He's still safe from the chariots in the position where he is. Annoyingly, in the combat with the Carrion, the Chimera had to use his breath weapon to get rid of them. The BSB, out of his 4 attacks, did 1 wound. It was a sign of things to come. In the combat between the Hell Cannon and the Chariot and the Necro Riders, it's a standoff, which is going to leave me open now for a charge by the War Sphinx, or possibly even the Chariots, depending on which units they decide to go for. Tomb King turn 4, and I get a lucky break. Colin charges the War Sphinx towards the Warrior Chariot in combat with the Necro Knights, but it fails its charge again, and it stumbles forward. Movement phase, Colin moves the Light High Priest out of the bunker unit to stop him suffering from frenzy. He then moves the Archer unit up without the Light High Priest further up onto the hill to face my BSB. Tomb King magic, and it's 9-4 in the Tomb King favour. He gets off the Desert Wind and moves his chariots back to keep them safe, just to give him an option to countercharge anything. He then gets the casket off again, and here's what happens. Luckily, the Chimera is in range of the BSB and takes 1 wound. The troops in the tower take 3 wounds, and yep, the War Shrine has its final wound taken away. And that was the end of the casket for that turn. My mistake, it looks like he also got the 5+ ward off on the troops as well. And in the Necro Knight combat, I finally managed to get one of the snakes off. The start of Warrior's turn 4, and I noticed that he also used the movement spell to move the War Sphinx back towards the forest. I declare a charge of the Gore Beast onto the War Sphinx. It needs about a 7. I charge the BSB into the Colossus. Again, it needs about an 8. And I charge the Chimera into the Light Archers on the hill, and he requires a 9. The Gore Beast makes it in, but I wasn't quite sure how that was going to go. Yeah, I've got quite good toughness and strength on charge, but we'll have to wait and see. Both the Chimera and the BSB make it into their targets. Once again, I'm wondering how the combat's going to go between the BSB and the Colossus. Should be pretty close. Normal moves, and I move the Dragon Ogres up to threaten the flank of the Necro Knights, and in the centre I move up the Warriors to get in a position where I can use magic on Colin's troops. Warriors magic is 5 dice to 3, and I throw all 5 dice to get acquiescence, and it goes off on the chariots. That's good, gives them random d6 movement next turn. On to combat, and yep, the Chimera wipes out the archers and overruns into the casket. The BSB has 4 attacks on the Colossus, and I do 1 wound. A recurring theme. The Colossus does 1 wound to the Exalted, but I'm able to stop it with his armour and ward saves. The Gore Beast chariot manages to take the War Sphinx down to 3 wounds for the loss of only 1. Its flank is fairly safe as the chariots have got the acquiescence random d6 move on them. And in the combat with the Necro Knights, I lose my chariot, but the Hell Cannon finishes off the Knights and reforms. Tomb King turn 5, and there's not a lot of movement, just the Light High Priest trying to get to a safer position. But in magic, the casket goes off, and it does 4 wounds to the Hell Cannon. I managed to stop desiccation, and then on to the combat phase. Once again, the BSB, from its 4 attacks, does 1 wound, and no wounds come back from the Colossus. The Chimera destroys the casket and turns to face the chariots. Warriors turn 5, and it's here I make a serious error. I fly the Chimera over to the back of the chariots to line up against the Light High Priest. Magic is 10-6 in favour of the Warriors of Chaos, and my level 2 cast Purveyne on his Light High Priest. The Light Priest fails his leadership test by enough to do 4 wounds, but then goes on to save 3 with his ward save. The resulting miscast is a 10, and he loses 2 levels and all his spells, but there are no dice lost from the casting pool. And here's where I compound my earlier error. I roll 4 dice for acquiescence on the chariots and get an irresistible force. The miscast results in 3 of the warriors dying. Turn 6 for the Tomb Kings, and this is where I have to remind my friend about the random move that I stupidly put on the chariots. That he's able to pivot and then go d6 with the chariots, which he then does, turns them to face and goes into my Chimera. What a pain in the ass that was. In the magic phase, the casket I can't stop, and it takes the last wound off the Hell Cannon. As it was my turn and it was the end of the combat from the previous one, I couldn't move them apart the 6 inches. And yeah, it then goes on to the Dragon Ogres and kills them as well. combat and one ray of sunshine, I'm able to kill the War Sphinx with the Gore Beast. That's good to remember. Yeah, the chariots into the flank of the Chimera wipes it out. Great. What a mistake. BSB, however, just manages to chip off one wound on the Colossus, and that's really all I've been doing, is one wound a turn, and we're just grinding it down. Still surviving though. Warriors turn 6, and I can't do anything in magic, and in combat, yep, nothing's done to either the BSB or the Colossus. And that was the end of the game. We both got 150 points each for the hidden scenarios, and mine was to take more banners than my opponent, and his was to keep his generals safe. So that was evens. When all the points are added up, I managed to get an 11-9 win. It would have been 13-7 if I hadn't made the mistake with acquiescence on the chariots in the last turn. But hey, there we go. Good game, enjoyable. And what I'll do now is I'll wrap up with my thoughts on the army and how it worked. Well, I've not played my warriors for a while, and I've never played the Slaanesh magic. But I must admit, I did enjoy using that over the game, and it was quite useful for some of the little tricks it can play. It's a 15 scoring army, and because of that, it's not got the hard hitting units like the Skull Crushers or the Teach with the 1-up, 3-up wards. It gets too expensive with the Swedish comp. I'm not looking to win the tournament, but I'm hoping to have some good games and do reasonably well. But I want to take a warriors army, and that means warriors. So I've got my core of 20 warriors to put the level 4 in. I want to take the War Shrine. I've painted it up. It looks really nice, I think. And the Dragon Ogres look good. And people don't tend to take the Dragon Ogres, I know, because they are a bit weak. But they're a good looking unit, and I think they might be fun. But I am trying to decide between taking them and maybe a unit of 8 Marauder Cavalry. It's a tricky one. Both of their uses, but I like to take the Dragon Ogres, but the Marauder Cavalry with another banner just seem a little bit more appealing for the safety net. Well, that's it. Thanks very much for watching, and if you did like it, please hit the like button. Please feel free to subscribe and also to share to friends. I hope to get another report up sometime this week. Not sure what we're going to be doing yet. Could be another practice game, or could be totally something different. But look forward to putting another one up. Please comment, give me any advice that you think on the list, and see you next time. Thanks very much.